Hey guys, back in Photo Director here. We're going to do another series. This particular image is one I've kind of tentatively named Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. And we're going to start by, first off, you can see up here that we are in a CMYK file. Remember, I've talked about in the past, this is going to be something that's going to be print on demand. So I want to know what it looks like when it prints, because RGB is what we see on our video screens or on our television, desktop, laptop, phones. All that stuff works in RGB. And PNG and JPEG files and things that you're going to send off to a printer, it's fine for them to be in RGB because every machine that prints, in other words, the printer itself that actually puts the ink on paper, has something inside of it called a driver that takes the RGB file and transposes it into a CMYK output so that it actually puts the ink on the paper in CMYK. And a lot of people that are on print on demand, I have a feeling don't really know about this because I've watched a lot of these gurus on print on demand and nobody ever mentions it. So there's a chance that you could get a really great looking print on design on your computer. And when it prints, the colors are all off because CMYK doesn't do neon. It doesn't do super, super bright stuff. So it's best to cut out that problem from a customer complaining, "Hey, I bought your t-shirt or your mug or your poster and the color looks terrible compared to the compared to the image that I bought." So, but that's enough about that. We're in CMYK, we're in PhotoDirector365, and we are going to start off with Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil with doing some object removal. I have already extended this image, and I do have a video on extending the image and those types of things. So I will probably do some more videos on how I actually get to the point where I'm going to edit an image, because sometimes, depending on what the image looks like zoomed up, sometimes I will increase the size of it and then compress it back down so that I can get a higher DPI, and then I'll start to go through the process. But I don't know if I'm going to go through all that stuff or not, because really it just depends on you and your images and what you're doing. I'm just trying to show you Photo Director, and that stuff is not stuff that I do in Photo Director. So once I'm in Photo Director, the image that I have pulled up is at 300 DPI, which is exactly what we need to print at, and we can go through and make the adjustments that we're going to make. Now I'm going to do we are in guided. Remember, design is the more complex version where you can use layers and things like that. And I may get into some layers with this picture. There may be some things that I want to add to it. There may be I want to affect lighting on only a certain part of the picture. There may also be where I need to affect colorization differently on the girl than I want on the devil. So as we move through it, we may be doing some of those things, but right now we're just going to start off in edit, and we're going to do some object removal, and I'm going to go ahead and do the manual instead of doing the quick select. Sometimes I just prefer the manual. I'm going to get us zoomed up here a little bit. Actually, I'm probably going to zoom to about 150. There is a little pane down here that says custom that you can enter a number. Oops. Escape gets rid of that. I forgot and clicked on the picture instead of only clicking on the box to move the box around. The first thing I'm going to deal with is this stuff here by his neck. I'm okay with this here. I'm going to use my scroller button on my mouse to change the size of what I'm doing. You can use your roller brush, or your roller brush. You can use the roller ball on your mouse to up and down the size of what you're doing here. Let's see. I know I want to get rid of this here. And I think I'm going to take that one out there as well. I think I'm going to leave those two, leave this little conundrum here in the middle. And then I'm going to get rid of some of this down here, kind of to cut his beard off a little bit. And we're just going to take that kind of stuff out of there and see what we get. Hopefully we gave it enough background where it's going to say, oh, okay, this is what you want. It's just the background. We're going to have to go in and clean up a couple of things here. Now, you're going to say, well, you're zoomed up and nobody's going to see that. And the fact of the matter is that this image is on my laptop screen, and it will, in fact, be this large when it gets blown up to a 20 by 30 print. So this stuff does matter when you start to get into that size of print. And it also matters to me. You know, I'm the artist. What matters to you might be different than what matters to me. So that's what's great about art is it's all individual stuff. Just taking a look around here, see if there's anything else I want to clean up. Right on our guy here, and right up here there's some stuff we need to get rid of. So we're going to take that. Take that, you dirty rat. Take that, you dirty rat. All right, let's have some fun with it. I'm trying to get a little looser on camera. I'm trying to be a little bit better about the things that I'm doing. Trying to bring a little bit of humor, and I do have an off-color humor. Some people say I'm uniquely creative and also uniquely funny to certain people. So I'm going to try and bring a little bit of that to it. I'm going to try and keep the conversation going because there are times when I'm really concentrating and I kind of shut F up, and I can't do that when I am recording a vodcast for you guys, trying to teach you about PhotoDirector. And remember, I am no expert when it comes to PhotoDirector. I am learning as I go. So I'm doing this stuff to kind of help anybody else out there who might be like me and love the idea of creating art and being creative in this way, but really has no background or basis in graphic design. Like I knew nothing other than, like how to crop a picture. And I've just been playing around, fumbling around, figuring out, hey, what does this do? Hey, what does that do? Um, all the way through this journey. And that's part of what made me go, hey, I need to like maybe throw some of this stuff down um, while I'm doing it because I know there's other people out there that, and one of the points of entry that they're kind of scared of is, oh, well, I don't know how to do any of this. I'm no graphic designer. I don't know, what to do in order to get this effect and what to do in order to get that effect. And I'm telling you, it's all right. It's okay. The whole thing, and I know it sounds cliche, is to just start. Just do. That's all I'm doing is just doing. And I've, if you've been over to the website and you've checked out some of the stuff I have on there, it's turned out really well. It's just a matter of I had to do it. I had to figure it out because this was really itching in my brain. I really wanted to pursue art like this. I really wanted to get some things going in terms of Kaosivity and in terms of doing my own artwork. And I just had to do. And hopefully you will start to realize like you can do it too. Like if this 50 something year old guy can go through this stuff and learn it on the fly, um, so can you. And it's wonderful to be able to live in an age Now, I grew up at a time when we didn't have such things. You know, our telephones were on the wall, they weren't in our pockets. So for me, this technology is freaking amazing because 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I could not have been an artist of any caliber, simply because I did not have the ability to paint and draw in a classical sense. Um, as I'm cleaning up some of these branches here, you guys are following along. I'm sure you're just seeing what I'm doing here, just taking care of business, painting a little bit on, removing a little bit, move my box around, see if there's anything else I want to get out of here. I'm kind of on the fence about these branches, but I don't think they make a big difference. But what does make a big difference is this guy's hand. Now, if we look at the other hand, we've got 4 digits for sure. There might be another one back here. And he's also a demon. Maybe he's lost a finger here or there. But this is too many. So we're going to take care of some of it. And I'm actually probably going to take us up to 200 zoom now because this is a little bit more enclosed. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this nail off right there. And why I'm taking that one off is because I'm going to take this one here and I'm going to move it up a little bit and angle it out a little bit differently. And I'll show you that in a minute. But as you can see, the finger's gone, or the nail is gone. We're going to clean that up just a little bit more. I don't really like this stuff right here now that I'm zoomed up, so I'm going to take a little crack at cleaning that up just a little bit. And look, boom, that's gone. So we need to get rid of this second thumb over here. I think we'll be all right with 5 digits on this guy. Um, just because of the 4 digits on the other hand are kind of obscured with the brush. If it was, you know, anything more relatively noticeable, like his other hand was right up next to this one, and that bump's kind of big, so we'll take that down a little bit. See what we can get. Yeah, he can have a little. I'm just going to see if this will clean up the background a little bit if I give it some background to play with. And look, it did. So I think I've gotten just about everything I wanted to remove off of this. There's some nonsense up here by the teeth, but I'm not really sure I'm going to be able to do anything with it without getting into the teeth too much. But we'll give it a whirl. We can always use the back button. Yeah, it did do a little bit. See if it'll take it down to the background a little bit more. And those 3 butterflies are pretty good, but this guy's kind of blurry and kind of misshapen, so I think I'm going to take him out. And we'll see what we get there. And then, ooh, that did really nicely. Back out here, take a look at it. See if there's anything else that's standing out at me that, hey, I got to move that. Or, hey, I got to get rid of that. I don't really think there is. I'm going to take one quick look over at his shoulder here. Kind of like that he's got some plants and things growing out of him. While there's some blurry spots in there, it's not really something that I can effectively clean up, I don't think. It kind of fits in with him. Uh, so I'm really happy with how those things cleaned up. And now we're going to go over to Object Move. And we're going to probably go up to 200. We might need to go a little higher than that. Yeah, let's see what we get at 300. Ooh, it's a little hard to move that box at 300. But all I want to see is this finger here. And I'm going to start as small as it'll let me go down here at the end, and we'll see what we see, because it's taking what it says is 1 pixel. So I will come back down here and clean this back up around the outside edge. But I'm just going to take as much of just the fingernail as as I possibly can at first. Good thing we can undo that. And then remember, you want to get it completely solidly encased in the marching ants. See how we got one little guy over here? We got to take care of that too. And I'm going to go up onto this knuckle, and I'm going to take part of this knuckle so that when we turn it, we're actually going to kind of realign the finger and the knuckle and all that good stuff. And now I'm going to go back over here to the negative brush, and I'm going to try getting this a little closer without getting too close. Oops, without getting too close. And when you're zoomed up this far, it's very helpful for getting the um, object that you want. But sometimes you got to be kind of a little ways away with your cursor and get a little bit closer, a little bit at a time, to get these little marching ants to move back in where you want them and not go back into the actual nail. I think I got one little spot there that I gotta, yep. It's one little spot here, one little spot here. All right, go back to the negative. Sorry, this is taking a little bit of time, but this is how it's done, at least as near as I can figure. Nope, now we took too much away again in that little spot, because when you're dealing with pixels and you're zoomed up this high, there's only so small the brush can go. It's at 1. It's as small as the brush will go. So I'm going to try and push this a little bit from the outside edge. Little by little, push it back towards the actual part of the image that I want to move. So that we're not getting too much of this background, because what it's going to do is it's going to leave a halo that's going to be very difficult to clean up around the nail when we move it. I gotta go back and hit, oops. Boy, oh boy, this stuff is touchy. And maybe I could do this better with a pen if I had one of those cool little pen setups. Unfortunately, the budget doesn't allow for a pen setup right now. I don't know how expensive they are. I haven't even really looked into them, but it is what it is, and I do the best I can with what I have. And that's what I want to encourage everybody to do, is do the best you can with what you have available, and voila, we have the nail. Now we may have to clean up around this a little bit. Come on, give me the little turnies. There we go. So I want to turn it out, and then I'm going to move it up. And it's a little confusing with the other nail still left in the background, but I think right about there is where we want to be. And ta-da! We have moved it. Now we need to go back to auto manual removal, go manual, and we're going to highlight this stuff right here and get it to blend into the background. hopefully a little bit better so that it won't look like we took that out of there. And that's a little bit better. Try a little bit right there and a little bit more right here along the nail. See if we can get it to do what we want it to do. And that didn't like that. All right, I think I'm going to have to leave that part alone. That seemed to work all right. This is going to get whiter, which means it's trying to take out the background as opposed to just taking stuff off of the background and getting rid of it. So there we go. We cleaned up some fingers, we moved a claw, we cleaned up some other stuff around here, and we're looking good to go. So I am going to go ahead and click the arrow over there, which processes the image. I will save this. We're already in a CMYK file, so our color should be right at this point in time, and I will catch you guys on the next video, where we're going to continue moving forward with the Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. So remember, guys, let the chaos out. Be creative, because if this 50-something-year-old coot can do it, anybody can do it. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out with me again. We are moving on to step 2 with Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. As you can see, we're back up in PhotoDirector365, and we are going to do some image enhancement at this point. Just going to zoom it up. That's probably a little too big, so we're going to go to our custom, go 75. Kind of want to be looking at these guys because I'm going to start with a little bit of denoise and see what we get. And I don't see a whole lot. I made some of the stuff a little bit cleaner. Check over here, clear it out, apply it. Yep, it did make it cleaner. Check it on the whole picture, because this is always a process. Some things work really well, some things don't really work really well. You just got to kind of play around with it a little bit. And I'm going to play with the deblur as well. Now I don't see much anything there, but we'll go up a little bit zoom wise. Yeah, I like that 75%. That's a little bit bigger. So let's clear that out of there. See what we get with the deblur. Not a whole lot better. I don't even think it makes it any better. So yeah, I think we're just going to leave the deblur alone. And we'll check auto color enhancement just to see what it does. And it just made the background a little bluer. So we'll just clear that out of there. Get out of there. All right, undid that. Oops, we don't want to undo the denoise. So we'll let that go and do its thing. Since we backed up one too many spots there. And we'll process that, and then we'll go into our manual adjustments. Now this is for the whole photo. So I'm going to play around with this a little bit, and if I don't like what it's doing on one side versus the other, I'm going to split it into layers, and we'll do it by layers. But I thought we should start here. You should always start with the easiest solution is the way that I think of things. So I'm going to play with the temperature a little bit just to see what we get. Go a little warmer. Kind of digging what it does to the fire. There we go, pointing at the screen like you guys can see that. I like what it does with the fire, but I don't like what it does on the other side of the screen. Now, if we go a little bit, and the reason why I'm doing white balance is because this will give me kind of an idea of what starts to happen as I start to add in blues and reds and oranges and things like that. I'm just kind of doing an overview of the picture. And I kind of like her side getting bluer, but I don't really like his side getting bluer. So I'm just going to double click on that and reset it to 0. Tint wise, we can play around a little bit with the tint to see what that's going to do. And that does kind of do what I want it to do, but not super good. So I'm just going to get rid of the white balance for right now. I'm going to close up the tone and the color, and we're just going to go down here in detail, which is our sharpness. And I don't want to get his bones and stuff popping out too much. So I really want to play with the sharpness on him. Because if this gets too grainy, it's just not going to work for print on demand. So as we take it up, you can see what I'm talking about, how it gets all grainy in here. It's just not what I want to see. I mean, I like the idea of having a nice, crisp, sharp picture, but if sharpness is not the way to go, sharpness is not the way to go. I think if we put a little bit in, it's probably not too bad, like maybe 15. So I don't want to get him too blown out of proportion. We're zoomed up too far for the radius to really show us anything. But the edge mask is something I didn't play with in the last video. This can actually dampen some of that graininess that you get out of the sharpness, because it's actually going to mask the edges a little bit with a little bit of shadow. I've actually got to back out a little bit out here to see what we get with the radius. And I'm not seeing a whole lot. Of course, we didn't add a whole lot of sharpness. So I'm going to turn the radius all the way up. I'm going to set the edge mask up a little bit, and then I'm going to zoom back in on our guy here, because that's the most important aspect of this. Anytime you're dealing with anything skeletal, unfortunately, I've found out you can really get it grainy in a hurry and not be able to undo it. So I'm not getting a whole lot off of either of those. I'm going to close that up, and we're going to go back up to tone, which is where our exposure, contrast, clarity, and I'm going to play a little bit with the clarity to begin with. And same thing as with the sharpness. I don't want to make him too grainy. I would rather have him stay skeletal and not wiry. So I'm not getting a whole lot there. Let's back out and see what we're getting as far as the picture is concerned. I think we're probably good to put a little clarity in there and play with the vibrance a little bit. Not getting a whole lot there. Saturation obviously is going to give us a lot more red over there, or black and white. Just going to leave that at 0. I am going to check the dehaze. See how much, like, it brightens the whole page. It's almost like exposure. But again, I want to be zoomed up on him because I want to know what it's doing to him. Because when we blow this up to 20 by 30, it's, if it looks too grainy, it's gonna look too grainy. So what we're trying to avoid is exactly that. And we might actually do a little negative dehaze. You see how that affects the rest of the picture. Okay, that's not too negative on the rest of the picture. It's a little lighter than what I want it over here. And like I said, this is, one of those situations where I'm looking at a picture and I'm going, I don't think adjusting the whole thing is the way I want to go, but I want to try this first and see what I get. Now, if I play with the contrast again on him, we take some of that lightness out from the dehaze. But there again, I don't want it to make him stringy and stuff like that. So I think we're all right with a little bit of contrast too, as long as we're not seeing too much of a difference in the overall picture. Now exposure, you can obviously expose or de-expose a picture, and you can use a lot of it very quickly. So the moral of this story is um, that this isn't going to work. So I'm going to have to individualize this. So this was an experiment. We're going to clear off everything we did. We're not going to do anything in the manual stuff on this one. I think I'm going to cut this video at this point in time because I walked you through that. So basically all we did was do the denoise, check the deblur, check the auto color enhancement, and then we checked the adjustments that we can make individually on the picture as a whole. So I'm going to I don't even have to save this, but I'm going to cut the video off here. I'm going to make into the next video into the design side, and we're going to play around with doing it in layers. So on the next one, I will see you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and remember to let the chaos out. Become creative. If this old coot, after all these years, can do it, you guys can do it as well. All right, guys. Hey, guys, thanks for hanging out with me. Um, we're back with the same picture, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. We're going to split this picture up so that we can handle the colorization, contrast, and such on uh, two sides of the picture. The bad news is that I don't have a clear line of delineation. Whereas on the other one that I did where I split it into two layers, the Demon Mage, I had a clear line along the mountains and along the patio area where I could demark where to do this. So this is going to be a little bit of a challenge. I'm basically going to have to cut the uh, devil figure on the left pretty much out of the background, and then I'm going to have to use the other layer for everything around it. So, we're going to have to cut him out so that we're affecting him and the things behind him. And then we're affecting these things over here, but we also want to affect this background that flows around him. So this is going to be a difficult layering to do, but it can be done. It's just how do we want to do it type of thing. And one thing that I'm going to do, I want to mention it before I even get started, is we need to stay a little bit inside, just barely inside what we're going to cut out on him, because if we do it the other way around and we're a little bit outside, it's going to leave a halo around him. So we kind of want just a little bit of what's happening with him to be part of the colorization of the other things. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start by duplicating this layer. So boom, we got two of them. So we can work in two different layers. And I'm going to, this is hide and unhide, the little eyeball here. I'm going to hide one layer, and we're going to zoom up because we're going to start erasing. And yeah, we're going to use a brush to, well, you know what, maybe pencil might work a little bit better around the outside edges. So we're going to go up to about 200. And I'm going to start up here with the horns. Well, 200's too high. Do 100 unless we're having trouble with getting all this stuff. Now, all of these little branches can be affected, I think, with the rest of the picture. So I'm going to try and stay inside here. Boy, that is small. Maybe we don't want the pencil. Maybe we want the brush. Yeah, this is going to be really difficult to see. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go an extra step here, and I am going to stick a solid color layer. And I think we want it to be white. And I'm going to put this in between the two. Let's see if I can see this erasing a little bit better. Oops. Got to be on the right layer. Oh, that's why my eraser's only at opacity. Yeah, there's an opacity on the eraser as well. So now we're going to get nice thick areas of white. Show us exactly what we're erasing and what we're not erasing. Like I said, I just want to kind of keep an edge on here so that I don't end up with a halo. And as you can see, this, I prefer the other way of doing things because if you can affect the whole photo, you don't have to go through all of this. Because this is a lot of detailed work to do. And if we can keep it moving decently, mouse, play along, we can actually affect this fairly quickly. Of course, not quickly enough for you guys. I'm sure you'd like to see this sped up, but it's very difficult for me to go back through a video, speed up certain sections. You know, this old coot ain't very good at uh, video editing yet. So if you all want to make this a little faster, I know YouTube allows you to fast forward, but I'm just going to keep working away here, trying to leave just a little bit of the exterior so we've got a good crisp edge. And as I go down, I said you don't want to leave much, but a little bit of an edge prevents you from getting a halo when all's said and done. And some of this I may not need to be outlining because we're going to outline beyond. So I'm actually going to take around the flowers, because the flowers can be affected by the other layer, I think. But we definitely want all of him. And this little tiny stuff gets really hard to do. The smaller you gotta go, the harder it is to get all of it worked out. So as you can see, this is going to take me some time to get all of this outlined, but at least you can kind of see what you got to go through in order to do layers. It's way easier on a photo that has clearly delineated mountain range or something that you can affect. But I've shown you not only how to duplicate the layers so that we can do the layering process with the color, but also how to put an intermediate color board in there to make sure that you can see what you're erasing. Because sometimes when you've got images layered over each other, depending on the color, uh, it's really hard to see what you're erasing. But I'm going to cut this one off for now. This video anyways. I'm going to go around and I'm going to get all of this done, and then I will come back with you guys as we start to color the layers independently, and we will go from there. Remember, guys, let the chaos out. This is why this stuff takes time. It's because it can be pretty technical from time to time. I'll see you on the next one, guys. Hey, guys. Phew. Man, that took a good 35, 40 minutes to get all of the devil areas that I wanted blanked out, erased from this layer. And as you can see, first off, I got my Kaosivity shirt on, so I'm being creative today. We've got these in hoodies and different colors and different style for the ladies. So um, head, op- head over to kaosivity.com/shop. It's if you go to the Kaosivity website, it's the market. It is where you will find everything you want, including all of our artwork and all of our merch. But now that the commercial is over with, we're back here in the PhotoDirector365. And like I said, I put the solid color in between the two levels, which I have now renamed. You can just click on these and rename them. So put the girl on one side, devil on the other side. So we erased the devil and most of his accoutrement, if you will, out of the picture. And now we can get rid of the solid color layer. We can just blank that out, and you can see now that we've got a nice cutout checkerboard pattern. Lets us know where everything's erased. But when you're zoomed up and you're trying to do things, sometimes it's very helpful to put a solid color layer in between the two so you know exactly what you're erasing and what you're not. And in these, we can drag to reorder. Um, we can put the devil on top and make sure we don't have any white showing through, make sure we didn't do anything on him. And whoops, I guess we should make sure that layer is visible. Solid color layer is there. There's nothing happening. So we can actually get rid of the color layer now just by right clicking on it, and it'll ask if you want, and deleting it. So now we have, I actually want the girl on top. And if we hide the devil layer, there you go. So we can work on just our girl in adjustments. And there's a couple different ways we could go about it. Like I said, I think the guided level adjustments are way easier to use, but in a situation like this, it's just not feasible to do it all as one picture. So in this episode of the vodcast, we are going to deal with just the girl. Now you can go down here to the little things and hit adjust layer. You want to make sure your blue box is around what you're doing. Um, so we're not going to be affecting the devil layer. We're just going to be affecting the girl layer. We can also go up here to adjust. Oh, no, we can't. Never mind. That's a different, that takes you into a different board, kind of like going into guided. Sorry, my fault, mistake made. Um, but as you well know, I'm famous for that because I'm fumbling around and finding out. So I'm gonna sandwich all this stuff together, make it a little easier. We'll just deal with one thing at a time. Plus, I know my ugly little head is down here in the corner. Um, but just, hey, as a side note on this particular one, since I always use hats, yes, I do have hair. So if anybody's wondered that, which I highly doubt, I do have hair. Just got my wife to cut my hair today, as a matter of fact. So I'm going to play with temperature and tint, um, just to see what we can affect in this picture. We're more than likely going to do it. That's kind of neat. Um, with the colors themselves, because we have the three different levels, the hue, the saturation, and the lightness that we can mess with. We can also kind of mess with the tint. You can see we could make the background really kind of green, and I'm not a big fan of green backgrounds. Really not. My favorite colors happen to be blue and purple, so blue and purples are good, but the green background is also going to make her green, which I don't want to have happen. So I'm just going to double click on that, and we're going to close up white balance. So we're going to start in detail, which is where our sharpness is. And remember how I was talking about in the last video, uh, maybe not the last video, the video that we attempted to do this all as one photo. Um, Part of the sharpness deal when you're doing the whole photo is the skeleton guy gets real grainy and like stringy in the bones and stuff, and I didn't want that. Um, but now that we're in two layers, I can affect things differently. So I can use the sharpness if it's going to move at all. It's going to change. There we go. Sometimes the program has a little lag in it. Um, Not getting a whole lot out of sharpness on this side. Now there's a section in the detail adjustment layers or adjustment panel. There's noise reduction is listed as luminance. And we'll play around with that a little bit and see what we get. See, now it's taking away. I almost pointed at the screen. It's taking away around the butterfly up here, when we do luminance. And I'm not sure why, but I'm going to leave it cranked up because we have detail and we have texture that we can play with down here too. And I'm going to see if the detail, oh, that's kind of cool. See, now it washed it out a little bit, but then we can play with the detail and we can play with texture, see if texture gives us anything. Not really. But I also kind of want to look down here at the sticks and stuff. Because sticks can get real stringy just like bones can too. When you crank up detail and stuff like that. So when they're a little hazy, they don't look so stringy. So if we put that back down, we're just dealing with sharpness. We may have to put our sharpness down just because I'm not liking the way that things are. I don't want things to be stringy. So if we put the sharpness all the way down and we try the noise reduction, see how that blurs everything up like that? Just like we kind of did with the butterfly tails up there. But if we bring in the detail, we can actually sharpen that up a little bit and we don't lose our butterfly stuff up here. There's also a color adjustment, which doesn't appear to be a lot up here, but it may do down here. No, we're not getting out of there. We'll set that back to 0. But now with our sharpness at 0 and our luminance and our detail, now we can bring in a little bit of sharpness and see if we like what we get. Not getting a whole lot out of it. And I want to check my sticks again. If I put it up too high on the sticks, they get a little stringy. Maybe right about 50 is going to be good. Not 49, 50, I said. And we come up here to our butterflies and our girl. And we can also check on the flowers, make sure those aren't getting messed up. Okay, so we're going to zoom back out and we're going to close that panel because I think we're about done there. And then we're not going to open color yet. We're going to open tone. Now there's exposure, brightness, contrast, clarity, vibrance, and saturation. You remember in the guided section, we have the brightest to darkest where we can actually affect a little bit differently. And I kind of like that, but we can play with this a little bit just to see what we get before we start heading into color. So clarity, oops, zoom up a little bit there, champ, because we need to be able to see. Start down on the sticks. What do we get out of clarity on the sticks? Not a whole lot. Contrast. Well, contrast makes them disappear unless we go negative contrast, which negative contrast is not bad. Not play much with that yet. See what we get out of color. Just wanted to look at it. So now we've added some negative contrast. And I want to see what it did with the trees in the background up here, our girl, our butterflies, our flowers. Kind of like that actually. Might be a little bit high. I bring it down right to about 60, minus 60, I should say. And then we can bring in a little brightness. Don't want to go too bright because we've got to be thinking CMYK. We've got to be thinking print. So if I brighten this way up, print may not be able to do this, or it may turn out really terrible. Um, but if we brighten it up about 15, we'll say, take a look at it at 15. Got some brightness in the flowers. The background is standing out just a little bit better. Our girl's not too bad. I still am not crazy about the face on the girl. And as a side note, I did try and like the AI face replace wouldn't pick up the face, so then I tried to do it from a photo and adjust the photo, and it turned out to be a big fiasco that I wasted about an hour on because it just didn't look right. If I'd have played around with it more and more, I basically took the picture, cropped it all the way down so it was just the face. Then I did a little bit of distortion to it to kind of get it to tilt in the right direction. Then I put it over top of it, and I thought I had it looking okay. And I lowered the transparency a little bit, and there was the flesh tone was all wrong. So the only way to get it to look right was to turn the uh, what's the word I'm looking for? The transparency down so far that the masky kind of look was showing through anyways. So I did try to do that, and I will do a video somewhere along the line about how to do something like that where I'm actually changing a small part of a picture. But now we'll go back to our girl here, now that we had a little side note. And I just want to get another check, make sure the face isn't looking too bad. As you can see, I did a lot of these branches, some of the major ones anyways, because I want to make sure that it doesn't look like we just blocked everything out on that side of the picture in order to get a different brightness and contrast. So I'm pretty happy with that. If we expose it a little bit, it gets a little brighter. So we got to kind of play around. That's what it's all about. You can see there on the, when you use exposure, it almost goes out from the center. So it's kind of okay, but I think I will leave the exposure for last. Whoops. Just because we need to jump into color. This one's going long enough, and I want her dress to pop. I want that red to pop, but not be so bright where it's a neon-y, where I might have to uh, um, think about the CMYK. That's always in the back of my mind. Now, we didn't get a whole lot out of red, not getting a whole lot out of orange, not getting a whole lot out of yellow. I mean, that kind of brings it up into the magenta range. Do we get anything from purple? No. Magenta? No. So we set those to 0. We got the red cranked all the way up on the hue, but I want to look at the branches. Not bad flame-wise, just those little embers. Did get a little bit of red to come out in the butterflies, and we got a lot of red in the flowers over here. This is why we always have to check everything, every detail. Right about there is about as far as I want to go with the red, maybe 45. And then we'll go over to saturation because we really didn't get much of anything. Again, I want to know what I'm doing to the dress. So that's bringing up the red really good. What did we do to the flowers? Not bad. Made them pop a little bit more. What about the embers? Not bad. See what we get if we play with the orange. Not really much of anything. We set that one to 0. Remember, double click for 0. I don't think we're really going to get much of an effect other than the reds here for the dress. Want to see about lightness, darkness. It's really not affecting a whole lot. But if we take a look at the flowers when we do that, like that on the ones by his horns, about 30. I like round numbers for some reason. Don't get me wrong. I do. I like round numbers. Ooh, the red popped a little bit more on the butterflies. I like that. And we're not causing any great pain down there. But now if we go out, looking at the background, what kind of effect are we getting out of blue? Well, that makes it pretty purple. I don't know if I want to go purple or aqua green. Not really. Wouldn't mind having a little more blue though. Ooh, the shine through. Even putting a little aqua in there, I get it really blue. Let's check lightness. Ooh, that lightens it up nicely. So I've got so much dark on the other side of this picture. I really want to kind of bring in the blue. I don't want it to be a dark blue. I want it to be light and bright and airy. That, I think, I might be happy with. Let's see what the purple does. Not a whole lot of light. What about saturation wise? Not a whole lot there either. So I think the shadows on her dress are throwing me off a little bit back here. This part here, where it's kind of graying. And I'm not sure how to affect that in a good way, if you know what I mean. Is it the aqua? Is it the blue? No, it doesn't appear to be. Sometimes you just have artifacts that it's kind of hard to get rid of um, because of the fact that it's a generated image. I think I'm pretty happy with that side. Might be a little too light on the aqua. And basically, we're affecting the brightness of this image. Ooh, I like what that just did. A little more blue in the hue and a little more aqua in the hue. Don't wash the girl out. Gotta look at the face and get a, no, we didn't wash her out. I like that. All right. I am going to click OK. And then I'm going to quickly jump back in because I just want to take a quick look at exposure, brightness, contrast. No, I don't really think I need any contrast in there. We took quite a bit of contrast out. Vibrance. I wanted to save what we did. That's why I jumped out and jumped back in. See, if I start taking the saturation up, we might be getting out of CYMK territory. I like the way that looks. Really cool. But that may be too saturated for CMYK. So if we take it down a little bit, so it's not quite so out there vibrant and saturated. We add a little vibrance in, take a little saturation away. And we can check the exposure, lighten and brighten even more. Just take a look at my girl here again. Take a look at my butterflies. Take a look at my branches. Take a look at my flowers. Wow, that really pops. All right. I am happy with that at this point in time, and that's where I'm going to cut this one off. We'll come back and do the devil. Remember, guys, let the chaos out. This creativity is just flowing out of me, and it is awesome to finally have an outlet. All this stuff was in my brain. All this stuff was there the whole time I was growing up. I had no way of doing anything with it. And that's why I say let the chaos out. It was this chaos going around in my brain, all this creativity, and it just I had no outlet for it. So I'm going to save this one. I will see you guys on the next one where we're going to deal with the colors on the devil. Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to deal with the devil on this, but on a side note, I found out a cool little coinky dink. I saved the last picture and then I typically jump out, check the folder, make sure it's saved to the right folder, make sure I can find my picture again. And it's saved like that because I had the devil layer hidden. So I jumped back in, clicked on it, saved it as a whole image. So note to self, when you're in this and you're in two layers, if you have a layer hidden and you save, it doesn't save the hidden layer. It saves just the visible layer, just the one you're working on. And now here we are, we've got the devil and the girl. Um, the blue like killed it on this side of the image and her red dress and the way everything popped in here, even behind his arm and the blue behind him and behind the horns and stuff. I am going to zoom up and make sure we don't have any halos to speak of. Now that we're kind of bound back together, it looks like we got a pretty good edge on most everything. Um, See here, we've got a little bit of haloing, but because we haven't done anything over here, it might go away without a problem. It might also just look really cool from the flames behind him. The main thing was on the front edge here. If I hadn't left a little bit of this edge, you can see one little spot right there where the blue came through where it shouldn't have. But that's so small and it's on the very edge of his nose. I'm not going to worry about that. I do have a couple little spots up here maybe where you can see a little bit of haloing, um, just because of the way that when you cut out, when you erase out the side of the picture, when you don't have a good line to erase and you're trying to do all this tracing, there's the computer has to make which pixels included, which pixels not included. So it's, a very good thing to keep an eye on it. Um, but, you know, it still is what it is. See, the girl is the duplicate layer. So this is the original image because I just hid the girl. But now that I have them together and I have all this color on the other side, I want to do the devil with that color because I want them to balance. I want to know exactly what I'm looking at. So we'll get into it here and we'll take the devil. We have the blue frame around our devil picture, so we are adjusting this layer. So this should not be affected at all. It should be only over here that we're seeing the effects of what's happening with what we're doing right now. So we'll play with the temperature a little bit. See, we can get quite a bit of temperature. He looks green. I don't really like him being green. You know, you bring in more blue and he kind of washes out in the picture. So we'll zero that out. We'll play a little bit with the tint just to see what we got going on. Green, purple, red. Should be able to get some good stuff with him. Like I said, I do that just kind of to see what the overall uh, potential is for what we've got going on. So we're going to close down again everything. We're going to start with sharpness because sharpness, clarity, and contrast are what's going to cause your skeleton to get stringy. Like he's already got some stringiness to him. We don't want to highlight this. Um, so if we bring the sharpness up, look what happens. He gets stringy. So we don't want to bring in sharpness hardly at all. We'll try the luminance, which is the noise reduction in here. Remember, it kind of can make some things blurry depending on the detail. And I'm not seeing a whole lot over here, but we'll try some detail. Ooh, that kind of, how's that look? It's kind of cool. Washed him out too much, but kind of like him being just a little bit, uh, what's the word? Like ethereal. Like he's not 100% there. He's kind of maybe in sort of a dream-like state for this girl. Noise reduction down pretty low. What do we get out of the detail? Don't want him to be stringy. Put it up about midway. Kind of like him being a little blurry, but not too much. We could play with texture as well, which it gets just a little bit less fuzzy with the texture. Just playing with this a minute. I didn't forget you guys were there. I know I should be talking the whole time, being entertaining and funny and all that kind of stuff. Do we get anything out of color? Absolutely nothing on the color, so we'll leave that alone. I want to check his horns. Now remember, the flowers are in her layer. Check the wings, check down here in the sticks. So I don't think we want to use sharpness. I think he's just going to get stringy. So we'll leave sharpness alone, close that up. We're done with that. We'll go up to tone and we can play with the clarity. Seeing, oh, yeah, there we go. A little bit of lag with the computer. I don't have a super fancy monster graphics card. I don't game, so I don't need it. Like the overall clarity, just up a little bit. And we can play a little bit with contrast. And it gets really dark. I've actually got to zoom out for that. See, if we darken him up, he becomes even a little more ethereal. About 25. See if that makes other things too blurry. Because contrast can actually cause blur too, especially when you're dealing with dark parts of an image. And we can play with brightness. We darken up certain parts of the image, brighten others. I mean, I don't want him to have a whole hell of a lot of brightness. I like the idea that he's got a little bit, like off the top of his horns, right on the front of his face. But again, I don't want him to be stringy. And he's looking a little stringy. So I'm just going to reset the brightness. We'll play with vibrance and saturation once we've gotten through with the colors. He's looking a little blurry. Why is my picture looking a little blurry except when I zoom it up? There again, it could be my computer lagging a little bit. But we did blur him out just a little bit. So hue. What kind of hues are we going to be using over here? I mean, we've got the red from the flames. We've got the red from her dress. So I'm thinking a little more orange in the flames. It's a little more red. Ooh, a little more yellowy, maybe? That's too yellow. Ooh, now we're talking. Get kind of that yellow crackle right in the middle, right behind him, right here. A lot out of yellow. We get a lot out of orange and red. Again, I'm not talking, but there's only so much I can do, guys. Concentrating, trying to show you the best that I can. How to use a program, I have no idea how to use. I have no training in these types of things. So I'm going to kind of bring them down a little bit because we need to go over to saturation and see what happens when we Saturate the red, makes his wings stand out pretty good. Saturate the orange, get that fire rolling behind him. Yellow a little bit. See if the green did anything with his horns. Some green in his horns if I do that with the blue. Don't really want that though. I don't want him looking sickly. So I think we're good. Just gotta check the lightness. Oh, that'll bring it up a little bit. And if you look right here, when you're playing with color, watch this area right here around his hand. See how that does when you do the orange? And then it kind of dies back off when we do it the other way. So it's not bad that it's there. It's just one of those situations where it's gonna either pop or not pop. And there's no way to tell until you see it happen. I think we need to reset and try it the other way. Try yellow first. Really out of yellow. Try orange. Try red. There we go. Now in this case, we can still play with brightness, but I don't really want to do that because I don't want him to wash out. Let me check our clarity a little bit. Check our vibrance. Oh, look what happens when we add too much saturation. We've already affected the saturation with him a little more desaturated, but still have flames. I think I like that, all in all. Of course, I say that now, just like what happened with Demon Mage. I'm not crazy about this stuff around his hand, but there's nothing that I can do about it. It just happens to be something in the picture itself. So I am going to click OK. And and let it process. And I'm going to switch the layers, which I really can't do. We switch the layers and we get this beautiful blue background. Butterflies are nice and bright. She's nice and bright. The devil is flames behind him, kind of washed out, a little bit blurry. Maybe he's not quite there. Um, so we're gonna do another photo layer from our library. And as you can see, I've got a fair number of images in the library in here, but that is nothing. Oops, that's not supposed to be in between. That's got to go on top. I was kind of crazy with it in between there, wasn't it? We get to have fun with this kind of stuff. All right, so we got to make you maybe a little bit smaller. And then I don't want to put it too far over in the corner because sometimes these images get cropped a little bit when I'm doing them as print on demand. So I think I'm going to settle it in right in that little rounded nook that's pretty dark on its own. And then we're going to do the magic of merge all. I went to layer, came down to merge, same place I put in the photo layer, or duplicate a layer, and you merge it all. Now it's one picture, all the layers are gone. Now we can save it, and we let some chaos out. We got some of the creativity out. And I'll see if there's anything else I'm going to do with this particular picture, but as of right now, I'll look at it a couple more times over the next couple of days, but as of right now, I'm very happy with that. And I'm going to stick it into CMYK and make sure it doesn't wash out too much. But I will see you guys on the next one. Make sure you let the chaos out. 40 years, more than 40 years, I've been doing this and haven't been able to get it out. And now I can.